Welcome to the D&D world!
How do you reward your players when playing Dungeons & Dragons? Now, the easy out is gold or, maybe a new set of armor or a weapon if they lost one, ammunition. But what if they need something special? You get to that moment in the game where they beat a big bad or they discovered a secret cavern somewhere deep inside of a mountainous region, and you want to reward them for their hard work and efforts that they've put into it. That's where magical items come in. And they come in all shapes and sizes. Now, yeah, they're the more standard and dull ones, like a +1 sword or armor, ring of protection, those kinds of things, and those are fine. But what I want to talk about are some of the more unique items, the ones that are different. Now, I've talked about a few in the past, such as my boat that I had, that I could hold on to it, put it in some water, say the magic word, and it would grow to any size that I needed it to be, and be complete with rooms and fun things like that for my party members. And that was pretty cool. But that wasn't in the book, it was actually more a variant of some, which is fine. I am all about that. I actually like to kind of try to do variants on magic items within my quests, or even do certain other things that are interesting and unique to the game. I like to bend the rules because, at least in my opinion, or as any, in my opinion, truly good D&D or Pathfinder or any player would know, the rules in these games are meant to be broken. They aren't meant to be the steadfast, be-all, end-all. This is it. You can do anything, and I think that's a key element to this. And that being said, the game still provides a lot of amazing things. And one of those examples, the first one I want to talk about today, is an item called Baron's Instant Fortress. Now, the idea is you get like a little cube or a block or like a panel, and it has a little button on it, and you just go boop, and all of a sudden, bam, a big-ass fortress pops out. That's pretty cool. It's yours to use, and you could put it back into that little cube at any time by pushing the button, somewhere on, in the building or outside of the building. Now, the first time I had that item, I had a button on both sides. You could push it on the outside or on the inside. And the DM made it so you had to have a little key so that you could go open up a little panel and push that button. Well, I had left the key inside, the one on the inside of the building, and the one outside I kept with me. So basically what I ended up doing is I would have a nice sleep, and then if someone tried to attack us, everyone would flee, and then I would run out, leave, and as I was leaving, slam that button and just dive out of the door and crush every monster on the inside. Now, that's not technically how the book describes it, but that's what I used to do. And it made for a really funny way to have us camp, because maybe we got disturbed, but we got disturbed in a way where it was like a minor inconvenience. It didn't take us an hour to get through a night like that. Not to mention, eventually, as a cleric, I had the spell Sanctuary. It was pretty cool. Now, I was early enough in my levels in that adventure to not be able to really get something like Baron's Instant Fortress, but my DM at the time made a mistake. He allowed us to request any one magic item from the book. I chose an item called the Ring of 3 Wishes. It's exactly what it sounds like. It gives you 3 wishes, and at least back in the day, I don't remember the exact description of it, but for the most part, it allowed you to wish for anything. You wanted to have a lot of money would show up. You wanted to bring someone back to life? Sure. These days I think that there would be some consequence for these things, but he didn't seem to mind. So I ended up using one of my wishes anyway on Baron's Instant Fortress because I had wanted it to go with my inevitable Sanctuary spell, and I also had wanted there was something else that I had wished for, and I can't recall that was equally funny. Oh, that's right, it was there used to be a submarine. I took the submarine as well. We didn't use it ever, but I had it. It was there. I can't remember the way we did use it, but not as a submarine. I think I just because another one where he set it up where, okay, fine, you can transport it the same way you do your fortress. So I think what I ended up doing was just pushing the button and letting it fall on people, which I did with my fortress a lot too. I turned it into a weapon and I broke it. It was tons of fun. Oh my god, ridiculous things I could do in that game. And my third wish, I believe, I actually saved for if one of us died. I never used it. It's still out there somewhere. Anyway, another really fun magic item that I love to give out as well as have is a decanter of endless water. And that's exactly what it sounds like. It's like a canteen that has an unlimited supply of water. And it has 3 settings. You can either set it to pour out like a gallon, pour out like 10 gallons, or a geyser. So the coolest thing I think I've ever had with that, aside from the time when I heard of a decanter of endless beer, that was pretty cool. What ended up happening was my friend was in my campaign and I gave him that decanter. And he said, great, awesome. I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but we'll figure it out. Later on, I decided that rather than giving everybody weapons in this campaign, I wanted to improve them. So I gave them inherent abilities that they would be able to utilize. And they weren't ridiculously overpowered, they'd be like minor things. And everyone kind of had like their own element. And he happened to have the ability to freeze or unfreeze water. So he would take his decanter of endless water, shoot a geyser out, and at that exact moment, he would have to tap it with his staff, and it would turn to solid ice. So if he'd use it to impale people, stop traps, all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, he was really creative with it. It was really just fantastic. At one point, he even used it to escape. He just poured 10 gallons of water down some stairs, turned it to ice, and, like, slid down it. It was super, like, God, it was annoying, is what it was. But I kind of loved it, and I wasn't mad. It was just annoying because, like, it was one of those things where I had to try to figure out, okay, how many times do I make this man roll? So as a DM, the mechanics of it were annoying, but the RP aspect of it was just so great. Oh my god, I absolutely loved it. And he was the only one that I knew of that actually took his ability seriously. Everyone else, they were like, I want damage. And it's like, no, you don't. The point of this was for, creating new things and having new utility, not being able to make your number bigger. But that was the problem with that group. But anyway, so that's a cool thing. I did mention the decanter of endless beer. That was interesting because basically it was alcoholic character, and I read about it in a book that parodies D&D, and I am totally stealing that idea. I'm going to utilize it in a fun way, I think, in a future campaign somewhere. I like to take aspects of the game that should be dangerous and make them fun as well. So, for example, I gave my friend a mimic, but it was a ring, and as long as he had it, he could feed it anything he wanted, and it would spout out, information or maybe an item from the dimension that the mimic, like when it eats something, that it sends its food to. I don't really know what you would call it. And I didn't really get to utilize him enough, and that really was a shame. And there's one guy who was like, "Oh, I've read the book. That's a bad thing. It's gonna kill you." That was kind of metagaming. I didn't like that. But when I said no, like, it's gonna be fine, just roleplay with me here. Be amazed that it exists, not terrified of it. And if your character is afraid of mimics, give me a reason for it, or else don't do that. So that can kind of ruin that idea. But I definitely strongly recommend, like, have characters run into a kobold that's not, like, a bad person. Maybe he has something magical about him, and he becomes a magical companion. Because that's another thing you can do, too. I had special birdseed that when my druid fed it to I believe they had a crow, it turned into a much bigger crow, and it was intelligent, and they could understand it, but no one else could. So they had a straight-up just talking crow. That was pretty cool. The last one I want to talk about that I feel like never gets a lot of love is there's several statues in the game. And they're shaped like animals mostly. And what they're able to do is actually transform into that animal for a short period of time. Now, I utilize them in ways where they have their own personalities, and I kind of take control of that aspect of it. I don't know if that's the common way to do it, but the one time I've gotten to use it, I didn't even get to use it because the guy never took it out once I gave it to him. I was like, yeah, you can have this. Here you go. And it was like going to be a lawful good dog for his chaotic evil character. And his chaotic evil character was kind of a piece of shit, and he kind of ruined the game. So I was going to use that dog as like a moral compass and make him be like, hey, listen, you know, you like your dog doesn't like you doing that. Maybe behave the way your dog would have you behave, and try to change him in some way without doing I guess I'll talk about one more. There's one more item I'll bring up, and that's called the Deck of Many Things. That is literally what it sounds like. You have a deck, you draw a card, thing happens. Now, the idea being the player has to say, I'm going to draw X amount of cards out of I think it's a 27 card deck, and then they draw it, and whatever's on that card happens. And it could be anything. It could be good, it can be bad. A lot of the times people will say that it's a bad thing. I happen to think that item is a lot of fun. I think that the idea of it happening doesn't ruin the game or ruin the character. It forces the player to do something different with that character. So for example, one of them is the balance, and it forces that character to change alignment to the opposite. So chaotic evil becomes lawful good. Well, how interesting would it be to have that chaotic evil character be aware that this happened to them and understand the situation, and then have to try to find a way to feel like themselves again? That's a personal quest, a personal triumph that you could put in there. There's a lot of things you could do with that. But yeah, those are the few magic items that I just genuinely love. And I mean, there's a whole book, a whole bunch of them. I mean, this is just one page. There's 100 things here on this page. That's Magic Item Table F, and that's only in 5th edition. There's all kinds of crazy books out there that add more and more, and you know, you as a person can just come up with something. You can make your own, and that's super cool. So I guess my question to you guys would be, if you could make a magic item in D&D, what would you make? Like, what item would it be that you would have where you would say, okay, here's the item, here's what it does, here's how I would use it? That's what I want to know. I think that'd be super cool. But I hope you guys are having a great D&D December, and I'll see you in the next one.